The title pretty much speaks for itself. I'm going to be picking 6 players that I think going into the 2024 season have a very big chance of taking a big leap statistically, proving a lot of doubters wrong, and perhaps even competing for most improved player. As for why I chose 6 names specifically, that's just the amount of names that I thought of that I thought would be good. So yeah, let's get into it. Real quick before I get into this video, if you end up enjoying it, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also drop a like, it only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. I do want to say quickly at the top here that obviously not all of these guys are going to quote unquote break out, and even what breaking out means is a little arbitrary and dependent on who you ask. I'm just going to say that all of these guys at least should have the opportunity to break out. Obviously, probably not gonna happen for all of them, so keep that in mind. If some of these guys don't break out, man, I don't know what to tell you. Everyone here, though, I think will get real opportunity this year, and we could see a real statistical leap from them, and potentially even an all-star level leap from 1 or 2 of them. Anyways, let's get into it, and we're gonna start with Devin Vassell. Devin has fantastic shooting right out of the gate. That's the thing that sticks out with him. This year, shooting 39% from 3 on 7 attempts per game, shooting 41% on short mid-range shots, 49% on long mid-range shots. He can get his shot off very effectively, pretty much anytime he wants to, especially out of the pick and roll. He is good at making decisions with the ball. He's slowly improving as a playmaker. He's gotten comparisons to Chris Middleton, and I really think that is a fair comparison. And I think with Wemby bringing more eyeballs to watch the Spurs this year, I think he's going to get a lot more recognition than he did last year. And with where his trajectory is going, I would not be surprised if he leaped into like a 23 point per game territory. He had an injury-riddled year last year and still managed to get to a relatively efficient 19 points per game, so I think it's well within the realm of possibility that with more consistency, more reps, and less attention from the defense, he can really bump those numbers. Anthony Simons is a player that, when you ask some people, it makes me feel like he is just wildly underrated. Don't get me wrong, I don't think the general consensus necessarily underrates him that significantly, but like, especially as it pertained to trade talks this offseason, I saw people throwing him in trades where I was like, you guys just have no idea how good this guy is, do you? For starters, Simons is one of the best shooters in the NBA. He shot 38% from 3 on 9 attempts per game this year, and this is coming with a pretty much 50-50 mix of pull-ups and catch and shoots. The guy can just absolutely shoot in a variety of ways. He can also shoot in the mid-range. He shot 44% from there this year, with that being about a fifth of his shot diet, and his finishing for a guard this year was strong. He took a 10% leap in percentage this year. So we're talking about someone who is an efficient 3-level scorer. All spots he shoots better than league average on really good volume. And as a result, he was getting 21 plus points a night at just the age of 23. And mind you, all of this is while sharing the floor with Dame for the most part. When Simons led the show in the 11 games that he played without Lillard this year, he scored 28 points a night and got 6 assists as well, while shooting 41% from 3 on 11 attempts per game. On top of that, in these games, he managed to end with a positive plus-minus over those games, which is pretty remarkable considering how dog shit this roster is, especially without Lillard. He can be pretty hit or miss as a playmaker and be a real problem defensively, but the guy can put the ball in the basket and can get that offense in a variety of ways. He can be the lead ball handler for you, or a secondary one that's running around screens for jumpers and attacking off of the catch. And luckily for Simons, going forward, he's going to be playing in a backcourt with Scoot Henderson, who should hopefully help him in the playmaking department, given that that is a little bit of a gray area for him. And of course, Scoot should also be setting up Simons plenty. I think, at least offensively speaking, the pairing in that backcourt is fantastic. I think Simons has the potential to eventually be a perennial all-star level talent, and I think we'll see a scoring leap for him up to like 25 35-ish points this year. Onyeka Okongwu is a big that I have been a fan of for the longest time now, and I am dying for him to get an opportunity to start. Luckily, there have been quite a few rumors of a Clint Capella trade. The Mavericks specifically seem to have a ton of interest. They could clear some space in the move and finally allow Onyeka to show that he can do this for real, and I think they would be wise to go that route. So I do have to say that this pick is heavily predicated on him actually getting this starting opportunity. I feel pretty strongly that it's going to happen, but of course I cannot predict the future. Honestly, this reminds me a lot of back when Bam Adebayo was backing up Hassan Whiteside in Miami. Don't get me wrong, it's not necessarily a one-on-one. Capella is better than Hassan, and I don't think Onyeka will be Bam level good, at least offensively, but it is the same dynamic of like, I get it, the center is more established, but there is a real chance that with the right opportunity, the younger guy would just prove to be way better. Onyeka is a great defensive player and a good connector on offense. On the defensive end of the floor, he's a great post defender, great weak side shot blocker. He handles guards on the perimeter extremely well. He's honestly pretty close to perfect as a defensive player, other than just being a little undersized for a 5. And on offense, he doesn't necessarily have a super high ceiling, but I do think he will overall be a plus offensive player. He's a strong interior finisher, shooting 76% at the rim last year. His mid-range jumper was also automatic, shooting well above league average on sizable volume. He's also a super efficient screen and roller, which obviously pairs well next to Trey and Murray. And he's only ever impressed when trusted with big minutes. This year, in the 6 games that he played 36 minutes or more, he averaged 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 3.3 blocks. In a starting role, I'd guess he averages around 15, 10, and 2 while being extremely efficient and playing all NBA level defense. Please give him an opportunity, Atlanta. Ochai Adebaji, which I'm probably saying that name wrong, is a rookie that I didn't really see the light on up until recently. My good friend Alex Hoops made a video about him, so if you want to get more than just my rough thoughts and get a real in-depth idea of who this guy is, then go check that video out. It's fantastic. But just to quickly summarize, he is a big guard with a really smooth jump shot. I think he has a ton of upside as a shooter, specifically from the corner where he shot 45% this year. With his size, he's shown ability as a slasher, particularly creating off of the catch. He has a lot of good role player energy to him. As the year went on, Utah got him more and more opportunity. In the last 16 games of the year, his minutes average crossed to 30 a night, and he averaged 15 points as a result on respectable efficiency and a high 3-point volume. I think he is due to potentially have a massive sophomore year. Tyrese Maxet is going to make an all-star leap this year. I'm convinced of it, and if anyone here was going to do that, I'm all but certain it would be him. And this isn't necessarily because of some large improvement in skill I'm expecting, rather just the extra opportunity that is of course going to be there with Harden more than likely being traded. When the Sixers traded for Harden, I was a little disappointed because I knew it would ultimately mean less opportunity for Tyrese to put up big numbers. It could ultimately be a positive for him and not force him to do too much, but honestly it just ended up feeling as though Harden was just training wheels for Maxey, not really allowing him to reach his full potential, but preventing him from falling on his ass. With him being the lead perimeter creator this year, his numbers should naturally jump, and he's shown in the past that he can handle that increased volume while maintaining his efficiency. In fact, in the 11 games that he played last season without Harden, he averaged 25 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds on 58% true shooting. He also hit hit 43% of his threes, taking 7.5 a game. His shooting specifically, I think, is a little bit underrated just because his driving ability overshadows it. Over the last 2 years, he has shot 43% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, 6 attempts this year, and he shot 40% on 8 attempts in this year's playoffs. With Harden gone, likely for a few role players, Maxey could take on his role going into this year, and I imagine the Sixers will ultimately be worse, but not by as wide of a margin as many might expect after they go from Harden to like Norman Powell. Last but not least, I want to talk about Mark Williams, perhaps the most underrated rookie of this entire draft class. Mark did not get a ton of opportunity early for the Hornets, but luckily Mason Plumlee was traded to the Clippers in the middle of the year and he got more opportunity to close and showed that he is truly a special defensive prospect at the center position. He ended up playing 9 games with 28 minutes or more, and in those games he averaged 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks on 65% true shooting. He is a really solid rim protector in spite of the block numbers not necessarily jumping out at you. He is a really big body and he knows how to position himself to disrupt shots, and he can jump out of the gym and has solid agility, which allows him to contest shots very well, on top of having solid enough speed to recover on perimeter players. He is a very strong rebounder, has had 11 double-doubles in the 43 games he played. Again, mind you, that was with very limited minutes. He's a great finisher at the rim. He shot 75% there, and like 30% of his field goals are dunks. He's just super athletic and a fantastic lob target, which of course pairs well next to LaMelo Ball. Dude's just a classic big man, which is exactly what they have needed for, well, God, pretty much ever since Al Jefferson left them for the Pacers. Like, it's been forever that the Hornets have been searching for a legit center, and I genuinely think he can be their center of the future. And I imagine with starting minutes going into next year, he will likely average a double-double, like 1.5 to 2 blocks, and be just ridiculously efficient, and subsequently proved to be one of the best young big men in the entire league. So I think the Hornets got a real steal with him, and I think he has gone under the radar pretty significantly, and he might surprise a couple of people this year. With that said, that's the end of the video. Shout out to Rudy for editing it, and goodbye.